Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dugout Podcast. I am your co-host Andrew, alongside my co-host Marissa. And Marissa, I think that there's no better place to start than the event is down at Ellen Road, Chelsea
Really?
versus Leeds. Yeah, really, Chelsea
Really,
versus
just gonna
Leeds.
throw me to the wolves like that, just like that.
That is my plan. I think
Wow,
I'd rather throw you than throw myself. So
wow.
it's all love.
Whew.
So yeah, Chelsea going down 3-0 Leeds at Ellen Road. Yes, Marissa, your thoughts? What went wrong for Chelsea?
This was a terrible performance. You could pick any adjective from the dictionary: shambolic, poor, awful. I mean, it was just a terrible performance. And I remember I was sitting though at the table eating breakfast, lovely breakfast when we conceded, and I was like, yeah, we can probably concede another one, and that can be it. Like, I just had that sense. I don't know why, because I was on a high from last week. I was confident. I was impressed with the energy and the intensity and the mentality of my side. So I was feeling a little bit more confident about the season. But then there was just something about this game. We had early chances as usual that we didn't take, yes. But from the time, I guess, 20 or 25 minutes rolled in, like, Leeds were just almost too much for us. And it feels so weird saying that, but the way they pressed, the intensity that they had is like we just couldn't cope. I think you saw the absence of Kante. That was a glaring absence. And I know Tuchel picked Conor Gallagher because he said Gallagher can match Kante's energy, but Kante doesn't only bring energy to that midfield. I think Jorginho in there with Gallagher, I in hindsight is always 2020, but I probably wouldn't have done it because this was a game that I felt, yeah, we had a lot of possession, but for me, when teams playing with that sort of intensity, Jorginho can't handle it, in my opinion. Um, and I think that was really tough for us. Um, we we didn't play badly. Let me just put it that way. It's not we played badly. It's just the manner in which we conceded our goals, the manner in which we defended. Like Leeds always looked dangerous when they were going forward, and I just I was just so shocked. Like I predicted what a three. I predicted a 2-1 or a 3-2 or something like that. I did not predict, or for the life of me, I could not even fathom that we were going to lose this game 3-0. Like, and the thing that really upsets me the most is that same thing that we talked about in the lead up to the season about how Chelsea's mentality is a concern for me. Like, I just feel that this side, when they go down or when things go against them in the game, they don't know how to respond. And when Mendy made that howler, that's why it felt like I didn't think we were going to get back in the game. Even though we weren't playing terribly, it's like we don't know how to be resilient through adverse circumstances, so to speak. So mentality was a problem for me. The midfield was a problem. I just don't even know what else to say. I tried my best not to get emotional about it because quite soon after that I had to go Kensington Oval and watch West Indies. So I was like, you know what, Marissa, you can't let this affect your entire day. Because when Chelsea lose like this, I literally my mind is just, ugh. But I try not to get emotional about it, but it's hard not to because I don't feel we've started the season that well. Yes, we played well against Spurs, but the performance against Everton wasn't that great. I know this last performance is like 4 points from 3 games. I just don't even know. And I'll be honest, it's harder when you see teams like Arsenal playing so well against teams that they should be beating. And then you see us play against teams that we should be beating and we look so poor.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether it's the manager. Does he need to get more from these players? Does he need to change the system? Is it the players? I mean, it's a new season. You should start a new season fresh and up for it. I just can't put. I've seen a lot of theories on Twitter, but for me, watching the games, I can't put my finger on why our season, except for Spurs, has started the way it has.
Okay.
That was more of a rant than an analysis, but that's how I get when it comes to Chelsea. So yeah.
No problem. I'll be a lot more, I'll be shorter than you, I guess. A lot more brief. Well, I'm not going to question Chelsea's mentality 3 games into the season. We won't go that far. This will have to happen a few more times for me to sense that, there's something amiss. But what I would say is that I agree with you. I don't think Chelsea were playing badly up until the moment they conceded. Because Chelsea did have a few chances, half chances to score as well, that weren't taken. But I felt as though you guys it's not so much the first goal for me, it's just that you guys happen to concede both the goals, or 2 goals in the first half, relatively in quick succession. And I think that's basically what set you guys back. I guess you could say the second goal was a byproduct of the first goal, because the way in which the first goal happened, with Mendy failing to clear his lines and being caught on the ball, it's naturally it gave Leeds a bit of a lift, a bit of a bounce, and it gave you guys the opposite effect. And before you guys can regain your composure, because I think at that stage it's more important to just make sure, well, if we go in behind just one, but then silly free kick is given away, good delivery in the box. Rodrigo meets a header, excellent header, and it's 2-0. I think what impressed me about Leeds the most is the fact that I guess there's an expectancy from teams outside the top 6, or what's not, and Leeds would have been a team who fought relegation last season. We've expected Leeds to come and just sit in and try to be content with what they have. But Leeds basically approached the second half the same way which they approached the first. They're really, really aggressive, really, really intense, good press, and they made extremely good decisions on the ball and off the ball as well, because I felt as though they defended quite well for the most part. So I think it was a really, really impressive performance by Leeds. I'm not sure if Chelsea, that result from last weekend and the manner in which the result from the last weekend occurred against Tottenham, I'm not sure if that would have been a bit, still in the system of the team. Maybe a hangover from last week, because I watched the Tottenham game as well against Wolves, and I didn't think Tottenham played particularly great. But the difference in the Tottenham and Wolves game is that Tottenham has a match winner in Harry Kane, and they roll their luck at times, and then they get a break and get the goal, and then they're able to see it out. Leeds, Chelsea, Leeds, like I said, quite aggressive, but Leeds were able to take their chances in this one. So I think that's basically why they came out on top. Something that you said, and I'm going to hand over back to you for your final word on Chelsea. I do agree with you about the midfield composition of the team, or in terms of Tuchel's selection. I don't necessarily like Loftus-Cheek at wing back. I don't necessarily like Rich James at right centre back. My feeling is that if Loftus-Cheek can't get in team as a centre midfielder, then he shouldn't play, period, unless you're injury ravaged and you have to use him. So I would have preferred to see Rich James at right wing back, and Chalobah or even Aspilicueta at centre back. And then in terms of the midfield, again, going to Ellen Road, would I have would I have gone with a Gallagher and Jorginho partnership in midfield? Because I get what Tuchel is saying about Gallagher maybe having a similar energy level to Kante. I don't think he has the same, but he has maybe a similar um, approach and energy level to Kante. But I don't think, and I just not say that Kante is just solely a holding midfielder or disruptor of things. He can play as well. But Gallagher for sure, I wouldn't associate a defensive mindset, as the forefront or his primary skill. So I thought as though maybe you guys needed a more robust defensive type of midfielder to go next to Jorginho. Whether or not that was available to you is another question. But definitely, like you said, Jorginho in those type of games when the pace is really, really quick, he tends to be bypassed, and that was more than evident on that game was on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, more than evident on Sunday. So yeah, man. But
I think I agree. I agree with the points you made about Reese and Loftus-Cheek. I the thing about it is, right, it worked last week because we switched. We switched between a back three and a back four. So Loftus-Cheek was playing more in midfield when we were in possession. But I didn't see that in the first 30 minutes against Leeds. So then I was questioning, okay, I get you want to keep the team as consistent as possible, but if you're not going to do that kind of hybrid of a system, why play Loftus-Cheek at wing back again? Because he was primarily over on the right against Leeds. The other thing I would comment on too is I don't necessarily agree with you're not going to question Chelsea mentality. I could question it though because it's since last season. But my thing is that we've conceded 5 goals this season so far, and I would say that 4 of those 5 goals were avoidable, and that's the frustration with me in this team. Any team, any individual on the pitch can make mistakes, but Chelsea makes too much, and when they do, they get punished. Like, me and the referees from the Spurs game. You know how I feel about the refereeing decisions. But let me be real. Jorginho mistake in the box to concede. Then you had poor defending from the corner in the 95th minute against Spurs. Then you had Mendy and that horror. And like you said, silly free kick given away. It's like, why does Chelsea continue to make these mistakes? It's like, is it that they're not switched on? Is it that they're lazy? I don't get why we are so mistake prone. That is something that I feel the individuals in the team need to address.
Point taken. I really don't have an answer for you tonight in terms of why these mistakes are happening. And like you said, the Jorginho filling Fear's lanes, that's an individual error. It's a poor decision, trying to play out instead of, clearing lanes in that moment. The corner again, there were multiple warnings because, like I said last week, I think almost all of Tottenham's corners went to the boards in their post. So Tottenham would have, in their analysis or preparation for the game, seemed to have seen a weakness in Chelsea's defending from set pieces and targeted the near post run. Eventually it paid off. But again, had Chelsea as a battling, maybe heed the warning, then maybe that goal wouldn't have materialized. And then Mendy, I was surprised they tried it because he's not particularly good with his feet in the first place, but he definitely didn't shift the ball way enough, and the Leeds striker didn't completely bite the fake, so he was able to get a foot in, and the rest is history. And then, like I said, the second goal came a bit too quickly after the first, and that really gave Leeds a foothold again. But again, I think we have to give Leeds credit in the sense that they came out with a half approach the game the same way, and it wasn't a case where they were content to just win the game 2-0. They were like, I think I can score another 1 or 2 here. So that must be commended.
Yeah, whatever. Well done, right. Leeds. Well done,
Leeds. It's only Leeds.
It's just, but it's just frustrating, to be honest. It's just frustrating. But honestly, in all seriousness, Leeds did play really, really well. So I'll give them that.
Correct. Another team that played really, really well over the weekend is Newcastle. And I think we can transition into the Newcastle Man City game that was played down at St. James Park on Sunday. Quite thrilling game. 6-goal thriller. So I was really impressed with Newcastle. I think this would have been the first time that I saw Newcastle for the season, and they really, really impressed me. Similar to Leeds, full of energy, full of intensity, aggression. They had a plan, which was there was some, a nice shape about them defensively, but they were prepared to, have a go at City and really try to exploit the space that City leaves in behind through the pace of Sam Maximin and Callum Wilson. And they were quite brave on the ball as well. They weren't scared to play. So you saw times where they tried to play up from the back and then get the ball forward. And they picked the right moments when to, play up from the back or release the ball for the run of Sam Maximin or Almiron, for example. So it was a really, really impressive display. I felt as though towards the end they seemed to run out of steam a bit. And, City will do that too. And then City were looking for a winner. But in terms of City, though, I think going forward, City will be okay defensively. I think the issue that City have is that they're understudies to the so what you call the first choice pair. I think that their understudies can sometimes leave them a bit vulnerable. Because before a ball was kicked, when I saw that, and if Ake was starting, I said to myself, if Newcastle play well, they might have a few chances. And I don't know. I always get a sense that when Ake is playing or when John Stones is playing, or to put it more in perspective, when Laporte or Ruben Diaz aren't starting, I always feel as though City are more susceptible than normal. What are your thoughts?
I agree. Which is why I was just surprised that Chelsea were going for Nathan Ake. He's not a bad defender, but he's not a banker. Like
he's not
he always has.
he's not a Rolls Royce of a defender. So you're not going to play him in elite tier. He's like a tier 2.
Exactly. I didn't want to use the words elite and world class because but whatever. Yes, I agree completely. And I didn't watch the first 60 or so minutes because I was still bitter from my previous game. Mm-hmm. But I did tune in when City were basically, I think I tuned in just as City scored their second goal. Mm-hmm. And City did, like you said, City did what City does, but with regards to what you say about the defense, I do think, yes, they'll be okay, but I still think City still has this in them. We saw it. Who was the centre back pairing in the Community Shield?
Ake and someone else.
I think Diaz played that game.
I think Diaz. I think it was Ake and Diaz. Yeah.
Like, I just think that they have a bit of a soft center to me. Like, I think if a team really can be on it, like how Newcastle were, like you said, in the first half and the first 50 minutes or so, then they can get at City. And I don't know. I don't know if Diaz and Laporte, I know Laporte is injured, but Diaz was on the bench. He came on, I believe. I'm not sure why Pep didn't start him. Maybe he had a knock or something. But I think if you don't have Diaz and Laporte as a partnership, or even Diaz and the Stones, I don't even go that far, but Diaz and Laporte together, I think, is crucial for City. And I'm surprised that they haven't been in for another centre-back this season, to be perfectly honest. Because they have good centre-backs, but can you really call any of their centre-backs elite centre-backs?
I would say Ruben Diaz is elite. I would also say Laporte is quite good. Even if not elite, he's definitely quite good. Not far from.
He's very injury prone.
Yeah, but that's all part of it.
I agree. So then, why haven't City been in for a centre back this season?
It's quite simple. I think it's a case of you have four centre backs, but only five. So if you got Ake and John Stones in reserve, um, it's a case where you play with what you have. I think, and I keep on saying, coaching is a big part of football as well, and Pep will trust himself to coach defensive shape and defensive organization and recovery, etc., etc. To the extent that these players, if they have a feeling, have the capacity to do so efficiently. You're not going to play a team that has the weapons that Newcastle have every week either. And I think, for me, I think the key to beating City for most teams, except maybe Liverpool, because Liverpool doesn't really play like that when they play against City. But every other team, the key for beating City is generally counter attack. Because City, when they lose the ball sometimes, if you can get the ball forward and get, a good pass or a good run through channel with pace, it seems to give them a bit of trouble. Most goals that City concede, apart from the outset piece or what's not, are true counter attacks. Right? When Wolves beat them, when Tottenham beat them, when United have defeated them in the past,
Yeah,
it's been true. Some
that is
shape
true.
of counter attack. Right? Because City, like Liverpool, leave a lot of space in behind to
Yeah,
exploit.
and their
If you can.
fullbacks are usually like right up as well.
Right. The
So
problem,
yeah,
the problem that City has, or sorry, not really the problem that City has, the problem that City gives you is that to get a counter attack going is difficult because City are, I want to say, the best team in the league at winning the ball back immediately as
yes,
soon as they lose it. Right?
yes,
They
yes,
really hit
yes,
home the mantra of defense starts the moment we lose the ball.
yeah.
So that's the problem that City gives you. But Newcastle really, I think Sam Maximin had a really, really outstanding game. It'd be interesting. Newcastle would be interesting, if get a bucket of ice water throw on them if, next week they come up play the same way. Same with Leeds, though. A lot of these teams, chill out ice water upon them. I'm not sure they produced a similar level of performance, but nevertheless, you have to give credit. Trippier, wonderful free kick. We all know why Southgate's going to take him to the World Cup. Set piece specialist.
Oh, that's okay
but
for you.
yeah, but I think after Newcastle went 3-1 up, I think Newcastle conceded the next goal a bit too soon, and it was avoidable because Newcastle had a few opportunities again to clear the ball, and they ended up conceding the corner. And then from the
Yeah,
corner, it's recycled,
yeah.
and Haaland lashes it in, goal
It
scorer.
get. It felt like that. I feel like that phase of play went on. That ball get recycled at least twice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Newcastle just can't get rid of it, and it was like, oh my god. And then the equalizer from City, Kevin De Bruyne, with a very exquisite pass. Have to give him credit, but Joe Willock on that same shot of legs, man. Close your leg. Had the ball will not pass and make its way to Bernardo Silva. But it was very, very not taking anything away from the vision of Kevin De Bruyne. Um, Nice pass, excellent run by Bernardo Silva again to bend it. And that's the thing about City. City have a variety of ways that they can hurt you. And
So
they're,
annoying.
they're always, in the game, essentially. So it's really important that if you get a lead or a cushion against City, you are able to maintain the cushion for as long as possible. Because it's one of those teams that they can score and they score at any moment. And then also, when they're chasing the game, they have a tendency to get goals really, really quickly and put you under pressure. And then it feels like, the ground is about to swallow you up or what's not, eat you alive. And you have to admit Newcastle was hanging on a bit there in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So,
And stay with Newcastle a bit though.
mhm.
Apparently, they've agreed a fee for Alexander Isak,
Yes, I saw that.
£59 million. That's a. I'm not. I have decided not to comment on fees for footballers anymore because I think that they're all outrageous.
Mhm.
But I think from the little I saw of him, he looks a good player.
Well, I haven't seen much of him, to be honest, in my life. I know he plays for Sweden. I know he plays for Sweden, and I know that they bought him from Sociedad.
Yeah.
Um, but I know he's okay. I know he's quick. I know how much is true, pacey. So hopefully for their sake, he can make an impact. I do believe he'll be okay. I do believe he'll make an impact, by the way. So, you know, welcome addition to Premier League, I guess. Yep. I hope that I don't see him. Well, I hope that impact doesn't felt firsthand as I played at Newcastle Nets. So,
gosh.
but the way how things are going, that might definitely be the case. So, having touched on City and Newcastle, having touched on Chelsea and Leeds, now it's time to touch on Manchester United versus Liverpool. Okay.
Oh. Take it away. Of course. Go ahead.
Wait, thank you. No, I'm not going to rant at you. I'm not even so sure that this is going to be a composed outburst. I know I predicted Liverpool would have won the game, but as you know, I had a measure of reservation about that as well. And here's the thing. I think that Liverpool, I think that this season could potentially be a struggle. It's unfortunate that they've waited as soon as I have decided to put myself in the public domain. And rather than give me the luxury and the convenience of having of getting to brag and be braggadocious and talk my nonsense, they have decided to make me eat some crow. But nevertheless, I think this year is going to be a potential struggle, one of transition. I think, as I said before, there's been a lot of talk about who Liverpool should sign, Liverpool needs strengthening midfield, etc., etc. I don't see that happening. I think Klopp is going to play with what he has. For the most part, the injuries aren't severe where people are going to be missing for half the season or anything like that. So I think it's a case where the midfield is a priority, but I think that they're going to take their time to find a replacement or someone to come in to that position. But get into the game. I think Manchester United were deserving winners. Must give them their credit. They played an outstanding game. I was surprised by not the intensity in which they started the game, but I was definitely surprised by, or impressed rather, I should say. I was definitely impressed by their ability to maintain that throughout the game, and it never dwindled or wavered or diminished. Right, the intensity for the most part, off the ball, on the ball, was exceptional. Every player was bang at it for Manchester United. Unfortunately, though, we couldn't say the same for Liverpool. But let me talk about Man U a little bit first. Their plan. Man U's plan was clear. Allow Liverpool to have the ball back, and when Liverpool started entering into the middle third, we pressed them and we tried to win the ball back and then hit them on the break. We tried to force mistakes before pressing as well and win the ball in certain areas that we know Liverpool are vulnerable, because like Manchester City, Liverpool do struggle with counter-attacks at times. And I felt as though, and it was only about counter-attacks from Manchester United as well. They also play some really, really nice stuff. I was critical last week of some of their decision making on the ball, and then Monday they put in a performance like that where the decision, the when to release the ball, the spaces that players run into to create space for others, everything was pretty, everything went well, put it like that. Now let's talk about Liverpool. Disappointing. I know Jurgen Klopp said, and I not want to argue with Mr. Klopp. I'm sure that he knows more football than I have learned. But he said that he felt that it's a game that Liverpool could have won and maybe should have won as well. I know the stats will tell you that Liverpool.
Which parts?
He said with more conviction and better decision making, Liverpool could have created more, whatever the case would be. But and the stats will tell you that Liverpool had more possession, more shots on target actually as well. It didn't seem like that watching the game. And that's where I'm coming to. Like Liverpool didn't generally like scoring, right? Liverpool are predominantly a right-sided team, and I hope that that's not a secret because they'll try to get anybody assist on beating them. But they're
That's not
predominantly
a
a
secret for
right-sided
sure.
team. Trent, Salah, and whoever else playing in the right midfield side on Monday was Harvey Elliott. The strength is that they want to play the ball into Salah, knock it back to Trent, where he's then facing forward. There's a lot of rotational in that, but it's like a little triangle that rotates, and that's where Liverpool create most of their stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how they normally attack. And then occasionally, the ball might come on the left hand side. And the other way of attacking is that, Bandit or somebody will lock the ball up, right? And, you get full, immediately you're up the field, and then it allows the team to push up. Unfortunately, though, on Monday, that little triumvirate, triangle, whatever, wasn't working. And nothing really was working. Liverpool, they had a lot of possession, but there was no penetration. There was nothing happening penetration-wise. I thought that a lot of players had an off day. And that's the thing. I think that, because to me, I don't criticize the starting 11, because to me, starting 11 was good enough to beat a Manchester United team that is struggling. But
yeah, I agree.
I think right now, too many players are off form. So Van Dijk, Gomez, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, Henderson, Bobby Firmino played a bunch of, you know what? They're really, really poor. And both goals from Manchester United were avoidable. If Trent Alexander-Arnold was flipping on the switch and decide to do what he's supposed to do, like you're vastly experienced, even though you're quite young still, and I know that you know better because I've seen you do it before. I know that you know better. It's a bit of laziness creeping into his game all of a sudden. The first goal, I sat home in Barbados. He's in Old Trafford at Manchester. Sorry, I'm sitting in Barbados and I can see from my TV screen that I can read the play. It's gonna be a 1-2, but yeah, Trent allows the guy to just run off the back of him and then Trent jogs. There's no sprint. There's no bust in the lung. It's Manchester United, Trent Alexander-Arnold. You keep on putting me in these positions where I have to defend whether or not you can defend or not. And I think you can defend, but I just think that, for whatever reason, you have brain farts all of a sudden and you forget the defensive assignment. But anyway, that was one. And then we saw, I know everybody talks about Van Dijk should have come out and blocked the ball or what's not. I agree. He could have done more. He didn't do more, though. But you have to give credit to Sancho again. Composed finish. The second goal, though, I was even more pissed about or annoyed about with Trent because I know initially before I drew their line, yeah, Rashford had a little offside, but I don't care if it's
Rashford
offside or not.
was offside.
But the thing, I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses. I actually don't care if it's offside or not because for me, Liverpool deserve to lose. End of. But so regardless if the goal was offside or onside, it doesn't really matter to me. The thing is that it could have been avoidable. Trent forces a ball, or tries to force a ball rather, into Luis Diaz, and I think Varane cut it out with a header. When the ball loops up, Henderson tries to control it, doesn't get there fully, and gets a toe on it, and Martial beats Van Dijk to the ball. Van Dijk did challenge, but Martial was a bit quicker. And that was it, that was symptomatic of Liverpool for the entire evening. Second to everything. Right? And Van Dijk loses out to Martial, who turns away. Now, most people might say, because Henderson was still close by, Van Dijk was still close by, I think combination of them could have maybe tried to trick Martial and, take a booking. It would have been an excellent booking to take there. But I'm not even going to talk about them. When Henderson miscontrols the ball, if you watch back that clip, Rashford has pulled out to the right of Joe Gomez.
Yeah.
And Trent is on the halfway line, just let's say 2 or 3 yards away from Marcus Rashford. Henderson miscontrols the ball. immediately Rafa pulls to Gomez's left. And it goes into mini ball for Martial. Martial comes out the better of it. At no point Trent senses the danger and decides, well, I need to get around the cover for Gomez. I help him out here. You know? Trent is looking on, just watching. My man, as a right back, your primary task, your primary job description is to defend. Okay? I don't care about what you do going forward. It's really nice, you know. I love Trent. He's actually my favorite player. You know. But Trent, you gotta do better. You know, maybe you should be getting wrong in the cover there. Saying that, you know what? Martial might win this ball. You should be getting recovery in the sense that, you know, Rafa might have to beat Gomez. You know? But if my presence is there, maybe it allows Gomez to recover or allows Bandit to recover. Something, but Trent is not even in the game. And that's because his defensive, you know, headspace isn't switched on. You know, and that for me is a problem. I think Liverpool. I don't blame Liverpool's performances or results on injuries. I think the only consequence of the injuries is that Klopp is kind of limited in terms of, you know, who can he substitute or who can he change things. You understand? But I think right now a lot of players are a little bit off form, a little bit off color. Whether or not that is a hangover of the exertions that they put into last season and, you know, playing every game rather than they could play it in the entire season. Whether that is the consequence of that, maybe. But a lot of them are off color. And I think they're just going to have to be patient. And I know allow themselves to play themselves back in the form. I think they will find back their form, but it's going to take some time. And the reality is that there's a potential that by the time they get back in form, you know, the title might already be gone. But like I said before, I think I said it to you in private, the most important thing isn't necessarily the title right now. The most important thing is making sure that you secure your qualification for Champions League again that season. And the reason that I call it a transition phase is because a lot of key players for Liverpool, Van Dijk, Henderson, Milner, Matip, are on the Bobby Firmino as well, and Mohamed Salah are on the wrong side of 30. And what Klopp has bought is that Klopp has bought a lot of youngsters. Darwin Núñez, guy called Ramsey's right back that we brought in, and the youngster Fabio Carvalho. We have some additional youngsters as well, if you count Konate, Elliott, and Curtis Jones. Correct. So my thing is that, yes, some decisions will probably be made and you will see like a gradual reshaping of the team. But I think it's going to be a transitional phase, especially when you consider that people like with the absence of Sadio Mane to Bayern Munich. I know Jota has played really well and chipped in with some goals, but he hasn't been a consistent starter, I would say. He's kind of been a rotational piece, right?
Yeah.
So you need him. You need Darwin Lewis had a great 6 months, but can he actually be? You know, he's not on Sadio's level. He still needs to develop. Darwin Núñez again, another player to develop. I said it before, you're waiting to see if Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones can turn first team squad members into legitimate threats to starting 11 places. I think Harvey Elliott is a bit closer to it than Curtis Jones right now. You know, so I think it's going to be a period of adjustment, a period of development, and Liverpool fans, if you're listening to my voice, just know you might have to, you know, endure some growing pains before you can really come again. Just food for thought. Your thoughts, Marissa? I think I'm finished.
I actually don't have much to add, but there is something that I want to touch on after I just gave Man U their flowers. I thought Man U started it like how you expect Man U to start a derby game. And it really felt like it wasn't unexpected, like you said, like the commentator said that Manchester United would start the game that way. But I remember saying all Liverpool needed to do was just try to hang in there and quieten the crowd and get a goal. That would have made that game very different because the crowd would have been antsy, get on the players' back. The players are already fragile. But Man United did well to maintain their intensity and they played really, really well. And I agree with you. I think it was a combination of Man U being excellent and Liverpool players being very off color. Now, I want to talk about the a few things you mentioned about Trent. And this is in no way trying to beat down on the man or anything, because anybody can have an off day. But you
Mm-hmm.
said two things about Trent that I want your opinion on, as that you said he's your favorite player and everything. You said one, that for the second goal he didn't sense the danger.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first goal, he wasn't busting a gut running back. And
Mm-hmm.
for that latter point, that wasn't the first time I noticed that in the game either.
Mm-hmm.
I find that this is something that you watch Liverpool more than I do, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I find that this is something that Trent does. For me,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he struggles to sense danger as his primary role as a defender. And sometimes when he should be busting a gut getting back, he doesn't. And is it laziness? Is it arrogance? Or what do you think it is? Because to me, this is not the first game that I've noticed those two things from him. What do you think it is?
Um, I think it's just a lot of attentiveness. I think he's just not as defensively alert as other season right backs would be in that situation. I think that's all it is. I don't think he's lazy. And this, let me qualify that by saying this. I try to be very, very careful about calling people lazy because I don't know him personally, as you
Understood.
know, as long. I don't want to say he's lazy. And was it in terms of arrogance? I don't think he's arrogant either, because I don't think that you can be arrogant and achieve what Liverpool has achieved under Klopp in terms of level performances over the last 3 to 4 years. And he was a starter. He was starting each season. So I don't think that your Klopp doesn't strike me as a star manager that you know um would tolerate arrogant players. I
Mm-hmm.
think confident, yes, but not arrogant. I think that's I wouldn't level that at him either. So I just think it's a lack of attentiveness, and whether or not because Vardy plays on the left as a left centre back, and then you have either Matip or Gomez or maybe Kanate on the right centre back channel. Whether or not one of them need to have a word and keep him awake, as you would say, a bit more often. But
But I
I
can't interrupt you here though. I
but
have to interrupt you here. Like, this is not, yes, Trent is 23, going
mm-hmm.
24. But this isn't some 19, 20-year old that got 20 caps. He's been playing for Liverpool for 6 seasons, 6 years, and has
Yeah, but that
over
but
150 caps. Where are you saying that he doesn't have the awareness of other seasoned right backs? He's experienced enough to have
okay
that awareness by now.
when I say season,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean in terms of how long he's been playing, because he's not
Okay.
an experienced player. He's just young. He's just
Mm-hmm.
young
Mm-hmm.
in age, but he's not inexperienced. I'm not saying that. When I say
Right.
season, I mean in terms of when I say season right backs, I mean right backs like Danny Carvajal, who made defending their priority. Who think that keeping a clean sheet is just as important as as stopping a goal. I think Trent mindset wise, if I could be a fly on the wall in Trent's mind for a brief moment, I think that Trent's mindset is creating an assist or scoring a goal is more important than actually stopping one. And that's what I think that's what he approaches the game, and that's what I mean. So I mean, like,
Okay.
I'm not saying that he's that you should that you can excuse the fact he's 23. I'm not, because like Trent is like almost like similar to Rashford. They're young,
Right.
but it's been a
Right.
long time.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Right.
yeah, and that's my thing with Trent. I just think that Trent switches all defensively. You know, um, he knows what to do. I've seen him do it on occasion, but he's not consistent with the defensive work that um, effort that he puts forward, I should say. I think that's something that Klopp needs to address. Is either Klopp needs to address it, or Klopp has told himself that what, this boy is so good going forward that he gives me so much that we can compensate for it.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting dilemma there. But I do fully expect Trent to bounce back. I do expect Liverpool to bounce back. How long it would take him to bounce back? That's the question that I'm not sure. And like I said, I just have my guard up, because this could be a season of a few knocks before you get a nice little run together. Like I said, the most important thing, first and foremost, is get back in Champions League. So you need to make sure that you're in the conversation. And then based on where you are in conversation going in the last 15, 10 games of the season, then, you will see if a title challenge is realistically possible. So I think Liverpool need to go back to basics. That's the whole thing, Liverpool need to go back to basics. Defend well, make sure our organization is good to avoid the the incessant counterattacks that you're currently facing. And go back to basics. Go back to basics. And take each game at one at a time myself. I think, but I don't want to level that at the players because I don't know. But I think the fan base is kind of suffering because like for example, you've been in that position, I'm sure, where the team has done so well, but they just missed out.
Yeah.
I know you're eager, you're expecting that next scenario is going to kick on.
Yeah.
I get the sense that that's what Liverpool's fan base is suffering from right now. I think they just need to take a breath, take a breath and just allow the team to work. That'll be my advice.
Okay, well, like you said before you started Liverpool segment, it's really disappointed that Chelsea and Liverpool have decided to start the season this way now that we are doing this. But let's hope for the best. Let's hope this isn't too long of a season for either of our teams.
Correct. I'm actually very proud of myself. Like I said, it wasn't a rant. It was a very, very compo. I'm pretty sure it's all yours.
Well
but
done.
I'm not ranting about Liverpool. At least not in public. Right. So I think we should get to a bit of cricket now.
Yes.
We
went to the game on Sunday.
Yes, we did.
Look, I don't know about you. I know we lost, but I had a good time, man.
I had a good time, man. I had a good time too. It was almost felt like a nostalgia experience since I haven't been there in such a long time.
I know, right? It's just like I cannot remember the last time I watched cricket live at Kensington Oval, let alone an international ODI. It was good, man. It was good. I remember when we first met her and I saw the overcast skies and I found out West Indies were back. At first I was like, oh boy, it might be a short one. But, we got the full 100 overs. Well, close enough.
Mm-hmm.
And, it had a little shower, but it was a good experience, to be honest, to be back at the Oval.
Correct. I agree.
Hearing all the noise and the vibes and the angry fans shouting.
Including you, right?
Listen to me. Please don't analyze on me. I was very calm.
Pardon?
I was calm.
Not on my left eardrum.
Whoa. That's just such an exaggeration. Such an exaggeration. I mean, I have my gripes, which we'll talk about, but I just want to say if more international cricket could be in Barbados for that cheap, West Indies would see me all the time.
Fair enough. I ain't know about seeing me all the time, but I guess if you're going to go, so I will go. But I think we should pick and choose our moments.
Fair enough.
I can't tell the West Indies so often, man. Especially my name. So, well, actually, no. But you know what? I didn't think this. I hope. Just in the, just to be honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I often find that with international cricket now, a big part of me going to see the games is who actually West Indies are playing. Because I think if Australia or South Africa playing, I want to see a player that I like from those teams. I go in. Just saying.
I know, right? That's why I was so disappointed
just going.
I get you, because that's why I was disappointed Kane was still injured, because I was really looking forward to seeing Kane back live and in person. But yeah, another defeat.
Mm-hmm.
Familiar issues as usual. But I do want to talk about some new things that I would have observed, though. Some things that I would have talked to you about on the day. I think watching cricket live is really an interesting experience because you don't got the replays and stuff like that. Right. So you see things that maybe you wouldn't see on the TV. And one of the things that stood out for me was something you had said. I remember when Daryl Mitchell was going after Yannick Correa. I think he took him for like 2 6s on a 4 or something. And you were like, Puran needs to go and talk to his bowler and stuff like that. And I tell you, man, he must still do that at the beginning and stuff. But I get what you mean, because for me, I think it points to a larger communication issue. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were there with me watching the game. Do you remember any time that you saw Puran and Hope talking, or Puran talking to somebody like a holder? Do you remember anything like that happening during the game?
No. And let me qualify by saying this. I'm sure they maybe said a few words, but it was never like, for example, you remember like when you're custom watching Australia, for example, or even England, you often would find that the captain, vice captain, and maybe a senior bowler or what's not, they're triangle together, and they take a couple minutes and they talk about his field together, and they sort of collaborate and plan.
Right.
And that was not the case of West Indies. It was like people caught the ball, toss it to Puran toss it to the ball, and that's it.
Yeah, I reflected on it a bit over the last few days, and I was like, I didn't like it. And for me, you remember when in the power play when Guptill told the umpires that we had 3 men outside the circle. You remember I was fuming, like I was so pissed off, and I was pissed off because you try to tell me you got the captain, you got the vice captain who's also the wicketkeeper, you got senior players on the field, and no one noticed. No one said, okay, let me make sure we got everything covered, all of our I's crossed and our T's, got me talking nonsense. I's dotted, T's crossed. I was like, what is going on? And then I realized hardly any communication is going on out there. Hardly any motivation is going on out there. And I wondered why. It doesn't seem like a team has a bad spirit or anything like that. They seem to vibe okay, but where's the communication? And I think that's a really big issue. People need to understand Puran is a young player. Puran has only played 51 ODI matches. Jason Holder and Shea Hope dominate him in that respect. Yes, he's played around the world and everything, but he's still a young man in a new role, and he needs to be helped. This is not saying that it's solely on people in the senior teams to carry him, because he's the captain, he has the responsibility. But you have to help each other on the field, though. You have to. Joe Root, for example, is no longer England's test captain, but you still see him and Stokes communicating on the field because, one, they're good friends. That much is obvious. But obviously, you're new in a role. You're going to rely on the experience around you. So that's something that I really feel hampers the West Indies, because when we get pummeled, take some time out of the game and have a conference. Other teams do it. I know we got issue over it because we get .2 points Monday for slow over it and not finish our overs in time. But still, do what you have to do to win the game. And that was the issue I had. Then the other issue, I must say I really enjoyed being right about this. Not because everybody likes to be right, but because I think it shows that you can still see things live without the statistics. So remember I told you that I felt like West Indies lost 10 runs from not pushing for twos, and New Zealand gained 10 runs from doing so. I actually went and found the statistics and realized I was right. West Indies ran 11 twos, which was 22 runs, and New Zealand ran 18 twos, which was 36 runs. That's a difference of about 14 runs. And New Zealand also ran more singles. And when you look at the West Indies playing, it's like we talked about it during the game. Shea Hope and Chalmers was just jogging for singles. When they could have put more intensity into the running, like just breezing through. I noticed though that it seemed to have been quite humid because they kept calling on for water and towels a lot. So I get that, but New Zealand were doing the same thing and still being intent in having intensity in their running.
Pause a minute.
Go ahead.
I get the whole point about humid, because how that argument came about, or that realization came about, is that every time someone runs into space, you started to shout two, and I was like, and I would turn and I said to you, for example, not running like that. They definitely can get for two. And I put that down to you could put it down to humility, and that was true.
Mhm.
Because remember I said that as well. You're not really feeling win,
Yeah,
but I think that's also down to the West Indies team not being as fit as they ought to be.
I agree.
Just I don't think they're as fit as they ought to be.
I agree
You can go.
100%. Because the amount of subfielders we had throughout that game was crazy. There was a point where all three of the subfielders in Blackwood, Seals, and Odin Smith were on the field at once. I don't
Yeah.
remember. I saw New Zealand had Phillips on occasionally for somebody from time to time, but that was one fielder. So that fitness thing is a good show. And I just look at the West Indies and I'm like, when you in that first 10 overs, we had this debate. I was annoyed at the start. You were like, okay, they're just preserving wickets. And I found out that Puran said after the game, they intentionally were cautious because of what happened in second ODA. So yeah,
As
you
it
were
is.
right. Right. Yes,
Yeah.
you were right. You were right. And for our listeners, it wasn't the only time he was right for the night. I'm surprised he hasn't bragged about it yet, but I'm sure we'll get there. But anyways,
I'm letting you go. Go ahead.
oh, okay. Okay. I know it was coming. But here's my thing. You can be cautious without being super slow. These men
Mhm.
were hitting the fielders at will. What happened to do what New Zealand does? Drop the ball and run a quick single. Or place the ball in gaps, manipulate the field. We could have gotten at least another 20 runs in just singles and twos had we done that. Instead, you got Shea hitting the fielder. You got Mears hitting the fielder constantly. So that 20 without loss in 10 overs could have easily been 40 without for the same without loss with minimal risk. And that could have been the difference between a 302 and a 320 score. Things
Mhm.
like that. So I don't know. I just think the team has potential clearly, but they
Mhm.
need to work on these little and big things of the game. Just small details matter. Small details matter in cricket, and West Indies seem to have not caught that yet.
Mhm.
Gallo and Bragg, no.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Now I just, I
Gallo and
just,
Bragg,
I didn't want to interrupt. Um.
so
Okay, so
respectful.
I agree. I agree with what you said in terms of West Indies definitely need to start doing a better job of manipulating the field, right? Because, and I think the good limited overs teams do it a lot. Australia, New Zealand, England,
Hmm.
India. They're very, very good at manipulating the field and working the ball into the gaps to pick up ones, twos, and even threes. Because everything is always about boundaries and sixes, especially in the middle overs.
Right.
But I put that down to I don't think it's a case where okay. I think it might be a combination of both in terms of um maybe our batsmen have a mindset that they want to hit boundaries all the time. I think we have suffered from that in the past, but I also think it's just something that we need to work on in terms of our batsmen need to look, take an inward look at themselves and I wonder if they ask themselves how can I improve and
Mm.
develop that skill because I think that's a skill thing. I don't think that Shea Hope, for example, when he drives the ball or Calmers, or anybody, wants to hit the fielder,
Right.
but
Right.
I think it's just a matter of skill. Have they practiced it enough? Do they pay enough attention, you know, to that skill, trying to maneuver the ball into space? And that's what he said. Like, I think maybe we need to update our training methods. Like, I watch Brian Lauer's documentary, and Lauer said, "Oh, he got so good at placing the ball in the gap was that when he was a little boy, he was just set up little obstacles for
Mm-hmm.
parts where it gets to be,
Mm-hmm.
and he would practice. He have somebody bowl to him, and he would just practice hitting the ball in the gap, avoiding the objects. And those are things that I think some of our cricketers, probably need to do. I think it's a skill thing more than anything else. Like you said, I didn't have a problem with the way we started because I felt as though knowing the West Indies and what they did on Friday, right? In terms of having that such a poor start to innings, I knew that we were going to come out and be a lot more cautious and try to preserve wickets. Because the one thing that West Indies don't want to do is to lose early wickets and lose them in abundance. So I think that was the nature for the cautious start, and both openers were cautious. But where we disagree was that you felt as though both of them should have, or at least you felt as though She-Hope should have batted a lot, quicker. And again, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
Go
that
ahead.
She-Hope doesn't have. I'm not saying that She-Hope doesn't have the ability to bat faster, but I felt as though, okay, considering the mindset at the start, if Calmers is going and Calmers started to go, if Calmers is going, then Shiz's job then becomes to make sure he holds down the end and just give him back the straight when he can. Now, if She-Hope was a lot more efficient at finding the gap, or sorry, I should not say a lot more efficient, but if She-Hope could have done that better, which is rotate the ball, and get Calmers more of a straight a bit more, then it's not going to be so much of a problem, right? That you will identify. But I don't feel as though there are two things for me. I don't feel as though that was why we lost the game. I felt we lost the game because for example, when She-Hope got out in 35th over, right, or 36th over.
Yeah, around there, yeah.
Around there. She got with about 15 overs left. You had a base. Now there are plenty of teams that we've seen, come in or for example lose their first wicket there, and they're able to accelerate to 320, 330, 340, right? It can happen. We've seen teams do it to us. I mean, many of times I've checked the score. I've been watching the game a little bit, and I see that we have the team, let's say, 180 for 2, 180 for 3, in 37th, 38th over. I'm like, okay, good. This team probably won't score more than 250, 260 on. And when I check back, it's like, oh, they got 315 for this, It's happened to us, right?
Yeah.
So the most important thing, to me, that She-Hope, and I do take your point. I think in some way, She-Hope maybe could have manipulated the ball more and not accumulate as many balls as he did to get the 51 runs that he got. But I do think that him and Calmers provide a base from which we could have launched from. I think the middle order though failed to launch because apart from Poran, all of them, got out relatively cheaply and for poor shots. Now you made a point that they could have, they still had time. They could have, taken an over or two to get accustomed to the pace of the pitch or to the, what the boys are trying to do. Have a look first. And I agree with you on that note, because for me, I didn't think that, unless you are adept at going from the off, which I admittedly haven't seen Brandon King and Shamar Brooks and the Carty guy. I haven't seen them bat as much as I have seen Poran bat. I've seen Poran bat multiple times for years, even in Canada over Barbados Tridents. I've seen him bat before. So I know that Poran is someone who doesn't necessarily need to take an over or two to get going. He can go from the off. So knowing that, and I'm actually realizing that Poran didn't get out early, Poran actually got in. When Shamar Brooks and Brandon King came in, or even the Carty guy, and the Carty guy did attempt it to a certain extent, but when they came in, then their job again is to manipulate straight and get Poran on strike. Right. They failed to do that. So I think the failure should be attributed to the middle order. For me, more so than Hope, because I think Hope and Calmers did execute the game plan fairly well, at least in terms of what they were supposed to do. What I want to say though is the other part I want to say that I think is responsible for our defeat would be the bowling effort. And if you compare it to, I saw, because there was didn't take a wicket for the first 35 overs, but they seemed to still be a bit chirpy and stuff like that in the field. They were still encouraging each other. The West Indies, you were hearing the crowd, but you weren't hearing anything. There wasn't a gatekeeper. Like, ball boy, good ball boy, nothing so. You know what I mean? Keep it there, boy. We heard there was a fan saying, keep it tight, keep it tight, keep it tight. But there was nothing on the field of play, and I think that's a problem. Like I said, I would have liked to see more engagement and camaraderie, because that's what you need when you're in the field for extended periods of time. I think we started and then the way we bowled the first time overs was really, really bad. The ball really bad, and our fielders let us down as well. They were really, really lethargic. So I felt like, I know you said that, at the end result, you felt as though the par score would have been more around 340, 350. I actually don't necessarily agree, because I feel as though the 301 was fine. I think how we bowled better because, for example, I think the way we bowled, Marissa, honestly, even if we had scored 333, 40 odd, I think it would have still been a problem. The way we bowled, as well
I
as
feel it. I feel it.
exactly, and especially the point I made as well. New Zealand batted poorly in the first and second ODIs. Now I know it's a different pitch that they played on for a third ODI, but even if it was the same pitch, I didn't expect New Zealand to come back collectively as bad as they did in the first two games. New Zealand are not best in these. They're gonna turn up at some point, or at least one of their batsmen or two are going to turn up at some point. I give them some runs. So I think that was the problem. And again, West Indies doing West Indies things. They bowl well in the first two ODIs. Can they do it in the third? The answer was quite emphatically no. So tough luck. I'm not all doom and gloom. I do think that there are some positives that they can take and they can build on. I think number one, all the batsmen need to learn how to use up the ones and twos, especially in those middle overs. Yeah. And I think that it's just a mindset thing. I think that people like Brandon King, for example, and Shamar Brooks, they need to attach a bit more value to their wicket. They give it away often too cheaply. Like Mitchell bowled a ball, first ball to Brandon King. Also, he hit it straight in short cover hand.
Yeah. I came home and actually watched over so many wickets, and that was actually a great catch. But like you said, it doesn't negate the fact that is the first ball he faced in a gate spin, his second ball ever, and that's what he doing. There wasn't a need for it.
Exactly. I think when he came in, who was he batting with? He was batting with Puran at that point. Okay.
Yeah, because he came at 4.
Right. I think another problem too is that because, like you said, I think you picked up that the message they come down that they need to get a move on the run rate.
Yes, right.
And I think the problem then was that Kalmir's got too soon. I remember I said that. Yeah. Well, I predicted that Kalmir's would get some runs, but I also said that when Kalmir's gets to the 100, he has to tell himself that he's not finished yet and he needs to make the 100 a big one.
Yeah,
because Kalmir's done that, would have gotten more runs. Kalmir's got a bit too soon after the initial vision tree figure smart. I think that's the next stage of all the batsmen. Like, I find that even when our batsmen score hundreds nowadays, when's the last time someone for West Indies scored 150 or double 100 in Test cricket or any type of cricket, any format of the game? They don't kick on.
Yeah,
you have to go back to Chris Gill, right, or something like that.
No. Kalmir scored 200 against Bangladesh last year.
So I forgot about that. Okay.
Yeah. But the thing about it is, right, it's interesting you brought up the thing about what I said about the message, because I just remembered, again, somebody online calling for Phil Simmons' head. Well, there's my issue. If you as a coach send out a message, guys, 16 overs, because I think the message came out around over 34. Correct. 16 overs to go, time to get a move on. We got 10 wickets in the hutch. That's the message he should be sending. Oh, the problem is not him. The problem is how it is executed. That is the problem. Look, we talk about Brandon King, but when I came home, I looked at the highlights. Shamar Butt's shot was even worse. Playing across the line, I don't know. He got caught. He got catch at the same short cover, but it was a different shot. He went kind of going across the line of the ball, and it just went straight up.
Hit the ball straight up.
Right, exactly. That's a poor shot. Kalmir's was just his naturally aggressive self. I mean, as you said, unfortunately, he got out. But then again, Shea Hope, the ball was there to be hit, but he hit it right in, I think, mid-wicket hand. It's just the execution. So I am not on board with these people calling for the coach head. West Indies' problem for me is how they're executing. That is the problem. You remember how nervous I was when Puran was going? I was like, jeez, on. I don't want Puran to go so quick, because
I told you, I said to you that considering the reputation of the other batsmen that we have, I told you that I think he needed to go. He cannot wait. He needs to go. He can't leave it to anybody else. But
his execution was way better than the others.
But the only thing that I would say about Phil Simmons is you see that bowling effort. Did he? Combination between him and Puran and whoever else in the leadership role, but was the team ready to take the field and be intense and be aggressive? Because it needed to be that. It's a final, it's a winner take all scenario. You have some runs like where you defend. You understand? We know that we can't bowl New Zealand because you did it in the first 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So then, where was he feeling? Where was the effort so lethargic, so wayward, so
The
lacking
intensity
in direction?
really,
Exactly. So did
the
he get him
intensity
ready to
was
take the
there.
field? And that's the only question I would have about Phil Simmons.
But it's funny. When I came home, we actually, because we missed the first 3 overs of the second
Right.
of New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
We actually missed the opportunity in that time. When
Oh,
Akil Hussein opened the ball and got to edge
mm-hmm.
the ball, and it went between keeper and slit. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, jeez, Don brothers, if that was taken, that would have been. You mean you get a man like Gupta who literally set the tone for New Zealand's innings? If we got him early, probably could have been a different game. So it's like even from like the early overs, they just didn't seem switched on. Like I get there was dew, I get it was wet. I mean, the amount of towels they had to keep bringing out all the time, dry ones to replace the wet ones, it was tough out there. I get that, but we really could have done better in terms of our intensity and in terms of our. I mean, there was some good fielding in patches, but
Mm-hmm.
overall, it was just substandard in my opinion, honestly.
Okay. Agreed. None more so than Mr. Sinclair who watched the
Oh
ball.
gosh, look, I cannot let you go down on that man. That ball get hit hard. He
I
could
do
not
not
react
care.
in time.
I mean,
Come on, man.
Marissa, I didn't guard British trying to see Marissa, and the ball it was in slow motion, maybe because I have glasses. But the ball, I can see the ball clear as day.
Andrew, that ball was passing. Like when Latham hit that ball
Mm-hmm.
was in the boundary in 2 seconds. That
All right,
man
man.
hit
You know
that
what?
ball hard.
I done. Okay, I done. I accept what you said. He hit it hard. Mr. Sinclair, he got ball spin and one breaky finger. Very good problem, also. But there was another chance that went down too. I can't remember who the batsman was, but went for a run, running backwards, couldn't get there. And my thing is that the guy coming in from long on should have, asserted himself and said it's my catch because it's an easier catch for him to take than poor run.
But how he can assert himself when Puran immediately call for the ball? Ain't he fault? If a
Over
man
when
tell you it's mine, I gotta stand the way, even though I
that
know I can catch it better.
come true, Mandy, come true like Mandy with a further in the
Oh my
box.
god.
Wherever he got that. It's my
But
catch.
that
Man.
was a key moment. That was a
Exactly.
key moment.
Exactly.
And I think Puran needs to. I'm not saying that this is how it is, but I
Mm-hmm.
think he got to understand too. As captain, you don't have to do everything. I know he took us. Actually, to be fair to him, he took a very similar catch in the first one day, running back over his shoulder. But this one was way different because I think it even was swirling a bit from what I saw on the replay when I came home. But that was O.D. Smith catch every day of the week, and that would have changed the game.
Correct, exactly. Yeah, right, exactly. That and the moment that you let him Sinclair off the hook for.
Oh my god.
Those were key moments because, like you said, that would have really put New Zealand under pressure. And then when the wickets did come, it was already at a point where it was manageable for New Zealand.
Yeah, it
So it
was
didn't
too
really feel the
late.
pressure.
Yeah. Jiminy should just come in and blast the ball everywhere.
Correct.
It was way too late. So, but I think I want to give props. Commerce's innings was excellent, but Nicholas Puran's innings was one of the best innings I've seen live. Though he was hitting that ball so clean, and it wasn't like he was muscling it; he was just timing it perfectly. It was a really, really brilliant innings, and he deserved 100 to be honest.
Yeah, agreed.
And also Alzari. I gotta give Alzari flowers because Alzari started really poorly with the ball, but I found that he really came back in his latter spells, and he did a really good job picking up a wicket and also trying to keep it tight. So there are positives there. I mean, the side isn't a bad side. I personally think Hetmeyer walks right back into this batting lineup and
Agreed.
improves it immediately.
Agreed.
But apparently he got picked, but he pulled up because apparently he had a death in his family. So that's why
I heard his family reason. So I'm sorry, personal reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he walks, yeah, it is. Because he walks right back into this one. They say him and Puran in that middle order immediately just makes us a better side.
Correct.
So there are positives there, but qualification looking a little dicey though. But yeah.
So when's our next series, or we go straight into qualification now?
That series against New Zealand was our last ODI Super League series.
Okay.
So the next ODI series we play doesn't go towards this Super League because we've already played more ODIs than anybody else on the table actually. So now it's time for the other teams to
Gotcha.
See what they can do. Yeah. So
Okay.
really, we are really looking over our shoulder at Ireland, South Africa, and Sri Lanka.
Okay. Understood. All right. I think we have time for one more thing, and that's predicting the scores of the next round of fixtures in the Premier League.
Yeah, I almost forget that. Yeah. I
If you
mean,
don't
I
make
ain't
for
sure.
the game
I
today.
ain't sure. I ain't sure we should do it because we've been getting our predictions terribly wrong lately.
Oh Lord, I don't
We
necessarily agree.
have
But fair
been.
enough.
We literally predicted Liverpool would have win comfortably at Man United.
As everyone else,
Pretty
except
much,
probably
yeah,
Man U
true,
fans. In fact, most
true.
Man actually I know some Man U fans that said that they were expecting that as well. They expected a defeat. So
Right.
it happens.
Okay, so first up is the early morning fixture on Saturday. Man United away at Southampton.
Mm, mm. I'm gonna go for Man U tomorrow.
Mm. I don't know, because uh, mm, Southampton is not a great side right now, but they did have a great comeback against a team recently. Was it Leeds and Leicester recently?
I think it
Um.
was Leicester, I believe.
Okay.
So Leicester?
I think it
I
was
think it's
both
Leicester,
Leicester
yeah.
and Leeds.
And yeah, I think they played both of them already, yeah.
Yeah. Um. Well. I don't want dog man you, but I think that this game be a draw.
Okay.
I could see this being a 2-2.
Well, I'm not upset about that prediction. So fair enough.
Chelsea versus Leicester.
2-0 to Chelsea.
I could pass on this.
No.
Oh gosh, predicting Chelsea is like pulling a rabbit out of the hat sometimes. I'll go with the same just to be safe, but it could be anything. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
City versus Palace.
City versus Palace.
Yeah.
I have City to win 3-1.
I ain't go with 4-0.
Okay.
Liverpool versus there's like Chelsea, City, and Liverpool all kick off at the same time on Saturday.
Yeah.
So
I know which
Liverpool
game I'll be watching.
versus I know which one I'll be watching too. Liverpool versus Bournemouth.
I'm gonna go for a 2-0 Liverpool win. Don't have me way. I don't know way. But I have faith that I used to go one.
Honestly, Liverpool win this convincingly 4-0.
Last time you said that, you know what happened. Anyhow.
I don't remember predicting of Liverpool 4-0. I've predicted probably 2 or 3 for
Against
Man
Man. No,
United
last
game.
time against Man, you said Liverpool win convincingly, and that's what you said again.
Right.
So,
But Bournemouth is different though. I saw them at I really give them too much credit. I saw how they played against Arsenal. I was not impressed at all. Um Arsenal Fulham, the late kickoff on Saturday.
Okay, I'm gonna go for our 2-2 draw. I think Fulham will get something from this
Interesting.
derby. I think it's gonna be tasty. I think Fulham will turn up and get something.
Fulham have started the season really well for real, but Arsenal just like a hot commodity right now, so I really think it can be a 2 or 3-0.
Okay,
No. 3-1.
I stick with my
3-1.
2-2.
3-1. 3-1 Arsenal.
Okay, I stick with my 2-2.
And Sunday, Forest versus Spurs. Spurs away at Forest.
I'll go for 1-1 draw.
I've seen 1.5 of Forest games so far, and they don't look bad. But you did mention something when we were talking about when you briefly mentioned Spurs and Wolves, and you said how Spurs have that match winner in Kane. So the only reason I am not going for a 1-0 Forest win is because once you have Kane, Spurs can at least get a goal. So I think I'll go 1-1 as well.
Okay.
But we know all these predictions wrong, so come back next week.
No, I'm sure a few of them will be right.
We'll see.
Any more games on Sunday, or that's it?
That's it. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's it. Because
That's it.
basically
Okay.
everybody, all the big six basically playing on Saturday except Spurs. Spurs is the only one that playing on Sunday.
Okay, no problemo. Right, so I think I think that Spurs. The only reason that I give it a draw, to be honest, because I think that I think Spurs should win the game, but I'm going to give it a draw because I think Forest will raise their game on the account that it's Tottenham.
Okay.
And Forest has that historic pride, both of them, because they were a big team in the 80s and 70s. So do have that.
Honestly, I watched them against Everton when Everton was at home, and they played well. They seem to they have something about them. They're not like a fantastic team that you expect to blow away people every week, but they have something about them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I also agree with the 1-1.
Wait, Everton doesn't have a game this weekend?
But Everton in basics?
No, but that's in terms of fixtures. They have a game this weekend?
Yeah, they're playing Brentford 10 o'clock kickoff away.
Oh,
I think they may lose that too, by the way.
I really want to get some more like I predicted Everton will win. I was about to be nice, but it's Everton, so I left out. All right.
I think that they can lose. Everton on shaky ground right now. It's not that they're playing bad, but they have a mistake in them, and they don't have a goal scorer.
They don't have a goal scorer, exactly. Well, that's tough. I wish Everton would improve. After I play in a couple weeks time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. Well, folks, it's been a pleasure. That has been another episode of the Dugout Podcast. Join us again next time.